Hi guys, good morning. So, lots of stuff's come up for me this weekend, lots of food for thought, as it were, and I wanted to do a little video about one particular topic, but you know me, I'll probably get lost and wander off and whatnot, but you know, yeah, you know, we all talk about the Archons, but nobody really seems to know who or what the Archons are. Now, in previous videos I have spoken about something I call the mind virus. There's a guy called Paul Levi who talks about something called Wetigo. I had my own sense of this mind virus before I came across him, so when I did come across him and listened to him, I felt that it resonated with me. It was like that with the Mandela effect as well. I came across that for years and thought that for a while I thought I was going mad. Then I thought, no, there's something going on here. Then I came across the Mandela effect online, and again it resonated with me. So, who are the Archons, and why is humanity being held in this state? I mean, there's so much information and there's so many different theories, and most of it is conjecture because we simply just don't know, and that is the truth, let's face it. Anyone who says they have the answers and they know what's going on, well, they're full of shit. We know a little bit, we know certain truths, but on the whole this entire experience is very, very nebulous, and it's very distractive, and it's that way for a reason, of course, because that which constitutes the Archons, or the dark force in this world, seeks to keep us on our knees. So I think about this, so paranormally speaking, the experiences that people have, experiences of darkness, psychic attack, nightmares, hauntings, alien abduction, that sort of thing. And then I think about how people used to think maybe a few hundred years ago. Again, history is not what we were told it is, obviously, so you enter a kind of unknown area in a sense, because if people were unevolved, as in, you know, say in the Middle Ages, people were very, very religious, people had no idea, or so they say, about, say, the idea of extraterrestrials may not have occurred to people like that. They spoke about fairies, the fae, taking their babies and replacing those babies with their own babies, or people getting caught in the circles, crop circles, and going missing. People used to go missing all the time. They still do today, hence Missing 411, David Paulides. So the course of human, I hesitate to call it development, because the course of human affairs has always been hijacked, or not always perhaps, but it's certainly been hijacked for as far as, well, as long as we remember. And, well, it seems that that which is responsible for that always remains on the other side of the veil, as in we never see it. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what motivates it. We don't know why it does what it does. other than it clearly seeks to keep us in this very unevolved, fearful, powerless state. Why it seeks to do that, we do not really know. It definitely feeds off human misery, and so it seeks to create as much misery as possible. It does that through the divide and conquer. It loves to set people against each other, and increasingly that is becoming very easy to do. So it creates chaos, it creates wars, it creates different factions, different religions, it creates different sexes. Creates different sexes, no, but it sets the sexes against each other. It creates the whole sort of left paradigm where everything is tolerated and everything is permissible, which then has a massive backlash. It creates all these different movements, you know, so-called grassroots movements even, that then immediately create the anti-force, because people are always against something. It totally manipulates the human psyche constantly to create chaos constantly. And because we are so our consciousness levels are so hijacked, and our perspective is so clouded because we're so traumatized and confused. We can't see the wood for the trees, so we are easily funneled into these paradigms, and there's all these different nuances. Time and time again, people fight other people for a wide variety of reasons. People are against each other. People are afraid of each other, so they're against each other. Very rarely do you find that people, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of beliefs, regardless of anything, say, hey, you know what? We're all human. We have that in common. We have a common enemy. We have that in common. Let's stand together and let's work this out. They seem incapable of doing that because all they've known is, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm white, you're black, or you're black and I'm white, or you're white and I'm black, or you're purple, or you're from another country and so I don't like the people in that country, or I don't like the food that you eat, I don't like the way you look, or hey, that country is really ours, let's invade it, or I mean, look, I'm babbling on a bit here really, it's a bit early and I've not had a good night's sleep, but it's the divide and conquer can be found everywhere, and people are terrified of each other, and people police each other all the time. We all know that feeling, the feeling of, oh, I can't really be me and live out loud and just express myself freely and openly. I can't really do that because people will retaliate. That is a definite feeling that a lot of us have. There is this sense that something hates us so much, isn't it? We have that sense of unseen but very real gaslighty persecution and manipulation going on all levels. And then we have the so-called Illuminati with their rituals and their Bohemian Grove and a stack of missing children and all kinds of weird stuff that goes on. We have hierarchies and power structures. We have the system which is made up of hierarchies and power structures, and you know, people doing whatever they want to do in order to get what they want. You just go, say, to India. Look at India. I mean, the corruption is just incredible, but it's overt, right? Our corruption in our countries is just as bad. It's just more covert. It's given an acceptable facade of, well, this is how it's meant to be. This is the right way of doing things. When in fact it's utterly putrid. It's, you know, corruption is corruption is corruption. You know, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it pretends to be. These Archons are behind all of that. They are constantly pulling the threads to the great web that is the human experience. But once upon a time it wasn't like that. Once upon a time humanity was a species that had extreme longevity, had no health problems, had natural abilities such as telepathy, telekinesis, being able to commune with each other without using words, commune with nature, with animals without using words, bringing things into form without having to lift a finger. We were magical beings, and we existed in a multiverse that was made up not just of human beings and animals, but many, many different types of beings and of creatures. We all existed in different worlds and different dimensions, but they were all somehow linked into one great big multiverse, and we were aware of each other and no doubt interacted with each other. But something happened, call it the fall, and everything broke apart. And fear gave rise to enemies, gave rise to wars. As our consciousness descended, devolved, there is evidence to suggest that thousands of years ago even, we were more highly developed. We were able to do things that we've simply forgotten how to do now. But one thing is a fact, is you can go to Arab countries, you can go to Japan, you can go to China, you can go to Russia, you can go to Europe. We all have our legends and our myths, and they all speak about different beings. But when you trail those stories back, and when you compare notes, you begin to see that there are significant similarities in the narratives. We're talking about a species of beings that shapeshift, that can take on any appearance, that massively influence the course of the human experience, so that our experience is very much, it's very much given a trajectory, a push towards a certain trajectory, much helped by us, our consciousness, or the hijacked consciousness, the parasitic virus, because we are just as much a part of that story. We play a part in it. We see ourselves as victims, as powerless victims caught in the net. But I think it's probably a bit more complex than that. I think we are creator beings, and I think that that ability is used by them through us, against us, so that we bring into being time and time again that which they want us to bring into being. So we have people, even 100 years ago, talking about fairies and, you know, crop circles, mysterious disappearances, shadow people, hauntings, poltergeists. Then we get the spiritualist movement, We get Madame Blavatsky, we get all that going on in an effort to maybe understand what's going on. But this is then hijacked because, of course, they don't want us to really know what's going on. They don't want to be visible. They don't want to be understood, you see. So anybody that makes an effort to understand what's really going on and starts to, you know, set up groups, other people get involved. Arthur Conan Doyle was involved with the spiritualist movement, and it all became a bit murky and it all became a bit dark, because people's consciousness is polluted. They have reasons for why they do what they do, and often enough their reasons for doing what they do are not pure. There is a self-interest, service to self, rather than a genuine, pure looking for truth. You know, so the whole thing becomes hijacked, it becomes polluted. You find yourself going around in circles. And there was a great deal of fakery going on. Lots of fake mediums, or genuine mediums, without intuitive discernment, and communing with malevolent spirits, pretending to be this, that and the other. So, yeah, it's muddy and it's murky, and it's our own polluted consciousness that time and time again gets in the way. We're so easily misled, we're so easily gaslighted, we're so easily trapped in corners of fear and mistrust, especially of ourselves. You know, it was 100 years ago it was the fairies, today it's extraterrestrials, but I reckon we're dealing with the same type of beings, basically. The Greys look, to me, not like extraterrestrials at all. They look like, you know, like fairies, like malevolent little fairies. They take people, do things to them, breed offspring with them, against their will. This is not the light, obviously. Are they Archons? I don't know. See, to me, the Archons are the parasites. I'm not sure that we're actually dealing with entities as such. I think we're dealing with a kind of virus, for lack of a better word, of consciousness that has infected all of us, not just humans, but even animals, nature itself, and all other beings that exist on the different planes. Everything has been hijacked by that. So within that story, within that narrative, we all take a place, and humanity is here. A race of what once used to be powerful beings, capable of great amazingness, are now stunted, living in some dark Legoland, completely blind and deaf, surrounded by soulless, empty minions. I mean, where did they come from, right? Soulless people. It's difficult to know this. It's difficult to know how, who, what, why, where, when. It's very difficult. There are no easy answers. The Arabs talk about the jinn, the Japanese talk about the kami. In the West we have the lore of the fairies. of demons. Religion talks about angels. You know, you talk about angels, then you start talking about religion. You start talking about the well, you think about Islam, and the story we're told of the inception of Islam was that Muhammad was sat in a cave and some angel came to him and handed him some book, and you know, next thing you know, he goes on a rampage killing everybody that does not wish to convert to Islam. Great legend there. So then we have Christianity, where these angels show up here, there and everywhere, burning bushes, books or stone tablets coming down from the sky and all kinds of stuff. I mean, basically, this is how they meddle, constantly meddle in human affairs. Always, 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 everywhere. In Japan, people used to be afraid all the time, and it was a case of I have to consult the oracle books in order to see whether it's a good day to travel, whether it's a good day to eat this particular dish, whether it is a good day to get married, because on this particular day a kami might be crossing that road, so I cannot go there. Or kami might get displeased if I get married on this specific day, etc. So subconsciously we know that these beings are around and that they are very easily displeased and that they influence and guide our lives one way or another. They take different guises. It's like, if you read the book by John Keel, The Mothman Prophecies, a very good book. Or if you look into a guy called Jacques Vallée, he does a lot of really good, you know, research. He wrote some really good books. One of them is Passport to Magonia. Because whilst the majority of humans have no idea about any of this, probably because their awareness is non-existent, or if they're just soul humans, not very awake, it's not. There's no depth, there's no... It's a case of, look, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. I need to go to work, I have to pay my bills, I have to keep my head above water. But some of us, of course, are interested in these things and have been all our lives. We can't help it. It's our nature, you know. So we are basically people that want to know the truth, but the truth, one way or another, continues to elude us all, doesn't it? We get snippets of it here and there. We learn a lot by going within, listening to ourselves and trying and clearing up our consciousness, liberating ourselves little by little, step by step, layer by layer. It's very important that we do that, because ultimately consciousness is the key to it all. But we need to know what we're dealing with. We do. There was a film in 1982, it was made in 1982, it's called The Entity, it's called Barbara Hershey. So that's a good film to watch. This woman, apparently based on a true story, I researched it and it does appear to be true. A woman that's repeatedly attacked and raped by this invisible assailant. She moved house again and again and again, and the attacks would stop periodically, but then they would start up again. So it wasn't bound to a particular place, it followed her wherever she went, so she had some serious entity attachment going on there. This is not an isolated case. There are quite a few cases of people who have entity attachments, who are attacked physically or where it meddles in their life so that relationships go awry, where they get sick all the time. People end up suffering from psychotic breakdowns, psychosis, whatnot. It's quite prevalent, actually. There is hauntings, there is poltergeist activity. I had a friend who lived in a house where literally everything moved by itself. This was localized. She moved it, she never had any trouble again, but in that house, my God, it was like the Hoover moved about by itself. Cups, plates, spoons, furniture, everything moved about by itself. She was stood there and it was all moving. It was, and obviously it freaked her out, so she moved, and that was that. But you know, you can go to places, right? I was in Italy years ago, and then we went for a walk, and there was this old building with very small, narrow windows, and it was dark. And I fancied sort of walking a bit further up, but there was a path there, but it was night. There was a moon in the sky, but over there it was pitch black. I mean, you couldn't see a thing, which was odd in and of itself, because there was enough moonlight to be able to kind of see. But going up there, I felt very drawn to go there, and yet when I took several steps in that direction, I saw that the blackness was just, it was like black goo, almost like you could cut it with a knife, and it emanated fear, heavy fear, and it was like, you don't want to go there. So I turned around, and that was that. But it was an odd experience. I mean, I've been asleep in the night and I've woken up, and there was a creature in my bedroom, and it was about 4 foot tall. It was black, completely black. It was squat, and it stood there, and it went like backwards and forwards, like that. And I felt very afraid. But there was a part of me that said, no, it's your fear that keeps it here. Be defiant and tell it to fuck off. So it took me a little while to get my shit together, but I did. And it left, it was gone, you know. Now, this was in the summer, and there was a full moon, and I could see, obviously in the darkness, a tiny bit. But this creature was, again, it was so black that it showed up in the darkness of my bedroom, because it was literally blacker than black. I've told you all about the pyramid-headed beings who were also very, very black, blacker than black, with their red glowy eyes. So we talk about shadow beings. They often show up with hats, the shadow people, you know, fedora type hats, which reminds me very much of the Man in Black. They never seem to know exactly how this reality works. How to eat some soup, for example. They can't work out how to use a spoon, how to eat soup. They don't even eat, they just pretend to, but invariably they're there holding the round part of the spoon and trying to eat their soup with a stick. I mean, you know, it doesn't make any sense. You know, we have this whole parade of beings from supposedly other planets. There was a guy, this is in a book by John Keel, some farmer in the middle of Idaho, and he steps out of his front door and he's there in the yard, and this egg-shaped UFO just comes down from the sky, and these little tripod legs coming out lands, and some guy in a blue type of boiler suit comes out and goes, oh, I was wondering, sir, could I possibly have a cup of water? And the farmer is there going, water, okay. He goes and gets a cup of water, guy drinks it and goes, thank you very much, gets back in, and off he goes. I mean, this was a guy who was very tall, he was very skinny, had long flowing blonde hair and a shiny electric blue boiler suit. We have these, people see owls everywhere, right? There's a guy called McLellan, what's his name, Joe McLellan? If you go on a YouTube channel called, Higher, with Alexis Brooks, what's it called again? Darn, I'll post a link down below. There's a guy called Joe McLellan, and he talks about owls, because owls play a massive role in this business. And for me, owls are big. I see owls a lot. I hear them a lot at night. I love owls. I've not experienced any paranormal events connected with owls myself, but a lot of people have. Or animals dressed in outfits, believe it or not. I mean, it's like the trickster element. It's like a part of it, you know, where it seems to just like having a bit of fun, not necessarily in a malevolent way, just because it knows that it can, because humans are a bit stupid. We have such high levels of ignorance that it's easy to play games with us, you know. I always get back to the idea that the Archons, if you look at it perhaps with the eyes of the people back then, the people that wrote the, you know, the Nag Hammadi scriptures, whether they're real or not is another question. You see, again, we don't know that. We may get some good information from them, but we do not know who wrote these books, and we do not know if they're genuine, or what the people that wrote those books were like, what kind of world they lived in, and what their consciousness was like. We don't know that, do we? Archon means ruler. I know that Charles Ford, a famous paranormal investigator, at the end of his life said, I believe that we are owned by something. And that's something that we all feel, because we look at this world and we know damn well that this is like living in a tiny dark box, a tiny dirty broom cupboard. We know this, and so that shows that deep down we know we are more than that, because if we weren't more than that, we wouldn't even realize nor care in any way. It wouldn't even come up that we are living in said dirty little broom cupboard, you know. We wouldn't chafe at the yoke. We would accept the yoke without question. But it shows you that within us there is this massive potential, this soul potential that's saying, hold on a fucking minute, this is all fucking wrong. What is going on? Why am I being squeezed like this? Why is life increasingly becoming harder and harder and harder to bear? See, the bigger we are within, the more we grow, the harder it seems to get. The distraction is ramping up like you wouldn't believe. That is another thing that I became really aware of over the weekend, where, you know, you get the gnosis, you get the insights, you get this awareness within you, this perception is growing. You get these amazing epiphanies, and yes, you're able to connect the dots, and it's very lucid, and it's very wholesome, and you know it's good for you. You know it's nourishing, empowering, and it's wow, yes. And then what do you get? All of a sudden something happens, you know, or somebody like upstairs starts banging with power tools. I had that all weekend. I mean, at some point it sounded like he was banging his head against the wall for about an hour. I don't know what that was about. Sounds, or something happens, or it's just something in your own mind. You see, this is why I keep getting back to consciousness virus, because it is in your own mind that it plays up. It's like radio, and all of a sudden the volume goes way up, and it's like, no, I don't want you thinking like this. I don't want you to have these epiphanies. I don't want you to have this lucidity. Can't have that. Focus on the mundane. Focus on everything that's wrong. Yes, we want you stuck there in that corner alone. You're powerless. You're never gonna be alright. You're fucked. Focus on that. Stay with that. See, And you have to be well versed in navigating that. So the more that happens, the better you get at it. If you are committed to standing your ground, because it's very hard going, because it is an attack. It's like, it comes from out there, but it comes from in here as well, very much so, because my mind just went, whoa, rampant. And I was very aware of it. So I kept coming back to my power, my lucidity, my insights. I often get a pen and paper and write stuff down as well, so that helps me to get back on track, because something wants us not to be heading into the light of our power. It wants to distract us, and it will do anything and use anything to do that. Go. So I think we're dealing with infected consciousness. So it's all about fear. I need to subjugate. I need to destroy. I need to be against. It's about, I need to feed because I'm hollow and I'm empty. So I will use others to get what I want, need, think I need. That's what certainly happens in this world with you know, you look at politicians, you look at governments, you look at corporations, you look at armies, you look at communities, you look at anything at all, and it's all corrupt and it all wants to feed. It's all parasitical. We live in a world which is very parasitical. It wants to use, it wants to feed, and it cares not about the damage that it does. It's amazing, because there's this building development going on which has destroyed acres upon acres upon acres of beautiful wild nature. There were beautiful trees, there were rabbit warrens, there were foxes, there were badgers. It was beautiful, and all of that was uprooted to build this massive stretch of hideous cardboard boxes on a hillside. And yet everywhere you go within that are signs saying protect the environment, working with nature. You see what I mean? It's fucking atrocious, and it's complete and utter bullshit, because at the end of the day they've destroyed it all, but they're pretending that, oh, we care about nature and we're so eco and we're so ooh and we're, that is this world. So there is a sense of, okay, well, we can do all this evil, but we have to pretend everything is that we're doing the right thing here. We have to pretend. So in a world where evil is all powerful, you wouldn't need to do that. You can do anything, and you wouldn't put those placards up. There is light. Oh, again, you know, what can I think? Love. These are just words, but there is goodness in this world, the power of light, of truth, of something that is beyond words, the great mystery that is good, that seeks to do and be good. Again, good is a word much maligned. It sounds a bit insipid, but I think you all know what I mean. It's a constant tug of war all around us, which always seems to slide toward the dark side. And that same battle goes on within us all the time. And we're dealing with these beings that most people can't see. We can't see them. We certainly don't know who they are, where they came from. There seem to be a wide variety of different creatures and beings that seek to keep humanity completely oblivious, ignorant, in misery, on its knees. We have non-player characters everywhere, people that are neither here nor there. They can be used nefariously against us at times, though for myself personally I haven't had too much of that. I've had some of that for sure, but Not overly much, but I am very aware that you have to be incredibly careful with people. And until you know what you're dealing with, sold, not sold, be very, very careful. Because even when you're dealing with sold people, they're all fucked up. I mean, look at the so-called truth movement and then start to really pay attention to the characters that inhabit that world. Wow, it ain't pretty. It's the same for the spiritual arena. The hijack is everywhere. There are these people that infiltrate. Yeah, MUFON used to be really good. They used to do a lot of good work, and then they became bigger, and all of a sudden it all went horribly wrong. And now you can't trust them at all because they've been infiltrated. Infiltration seems to be part of how it works. Sorry, because I'm really rambling on here this morning, but it's been one of these weekends where I've literally been, it's been about there and then there and there, and that in and of itself has been sort of distractionary information overload, right? You get that. But a lot of it's been very, very, very good and very lucid and has shown me layers of reality that I wasn't quite clear on before, and this is all very, very good. Then as a bird just did a big shit right on somebody's windscreen. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say, people, is, you know, to just say that, you know, we don't really exactly know what we're dealing with. You know, everybody talks about the Archons, but nobody really talks about who or what they might be. Well, no, some people do, I suppose. For me, it's always been a case of what we're dealing with here is polluted or a consciousness that is malfunctioning. All right, but that has created some sort of massive upheaval, the fall, chaos in the multiverse, and so there's it's divide and conquer. It's everybody against everybody else, and of course lots of subterfuge, lots of gaslighting, lots of hidden agendas, and all kinds of beings and creatures, and all kinds of weird shit is going on. People in America go hiking and they disappear without a trace. Children disappear without a trace. People see weird shit going on in the woods, which I have seen on the moors here, where they sit there and they stare. You know, you've done a hike. I mean, I haven't hiked for ages, but I have been on the moors and I've sat there just looking out into space, just, you know, whatever. You know, your focus goes a bit off. And then I just see that everything there is the way it normally looks, but just over there, that little patch, it looks like you're looking through a pane of dirty glass, but it sort of, then it starts to move. It's weird. It's like, whoa. You think, if I go up there and stick my hand, I bet I'll be able to stick my hand through it and reach into another dimension. It looks like a dimensional gateway, but you can't be sure, and, well, something seems to come closer, yet at the same time going further away. It's very strange. Glitches, you know, glitches in the Matrix. It's all so strange, it just is. The biggest problem we have is distraction and consciousness traps, in my view. You know, the distraction that's here, the distraction that is out there. It's a tough one, people. It's a tough one, you know. I do feel that there are truths, answers, revelations that happen Sometimes you get them and then you lose them again because you seek to hold on to it. Oh yeah, yeah. And then it sort of, it just slips your grasp, but it comes back again in a bigger way so that you get it even more. But it's all been, oh, just this weekend, man, it's just been intense, really intense. And yes, I have really been thinking about the all, well, you know, obviously there is something beyond the multiverse. I think it's infinite, but I don't, maybe we didn't come from the multiverse, maybe we actually came from beyond it for some reason, because yeah, it needs, maybe it does need to be fixed or reset, or maybe that is not the case. Maybe we are here simply to go from one state of being through to another state of being. The power of a clear, pure consciousness may well be able to achieve absolutely anything, and maybe that is what we're here to discover. But it's a journey of discovery, and so I like to dig and I like to think about things and talk about my observations. I guess that's what I'll call it a day there today. And yeah, sorry if I've rambled on a bit today, people, but I just feel that way this morning. Bit confused. All right, see you again soon.